Item Number SCP-8576 Issue 1-7-7-2021 Clearance Level 1 Unrestricted Containment Class Uncontainable Disruption Class 1 Dark Risk Class Pre-Warning Special Containment Procedures. Due to the unpredictable and transient nature of SCP-8576, physical containment is not currently possible. SCP-8576 is therefore classified uncontainable, and containment efforts are focused on observation, documentation, incident prevention, and informing personnel that are not currently aware of SCP-8576. All Foundation sites are to maintain passive visual monitoring of corridors, intersections, and areas with obstructive architecture. Fixed CCTV systems are to remain operational at all times in locations where SCP-8576 activity has been confirmed. Any newly recorded manifestation is to be logged and reviewed by Research Division 8576 within 24 hours. Personnel who witness SCP-8576 are to report the encounter immediately and submit to a mandatory post-observation interview and cognitive screening. Memory alteration is not authorized unless secondary anomalous effects are confirmed. Staff who have visually confirmed SCP-8576 may be reassigned to observation detail as recurrence appears more frequent among individuals exposed only once prior. Areas of repeated or recent activity are to be monitored. If an incident occurs, monitors are instructed to follow the pursuit via CCTV and inform Research Division 8576 and available MTF personnel. Personnel who are the target of SCP-8576 are not to move if the anomaly is seen in its seek mode, see below, and are not to pursue without authorization from Level 3 research staff. Pursuits resulting in loss of radio contact or physical injury are to be treated as containment breaches for investigative purposes only. SCP-8576 related research is considered open access to all Foundation personnel under Clearance Level 1 following Directive 8576-R, which determined that broad awareness of the anomaly significantly reduces psychological risk and pursuit resulting in physical or psychological harm. Health Notice. Staff with medical histories of substance abuse or addiction are to be flagged as a priority when at risk involving SCP-8576. Description: SCP-8576 manifests as a juvenile female figure, estimated age 8 to 10, with shoulder-length hair. The entity most commonly presents at or behind corners, doorways, low walls, and other partial obstructions within building interiors and exteriors, but never in large open areas. SCP-8576 exhibits two primary behavioral modes. Mode A, Seek. SCP-8576 remains stationary or nearly stationary, visible only as a partial view, head/shoulders/one hand, etc., peeking from behind an obstruction. The figure will hold position until the observer acts. When approached, the entity will withdraw from direct view. Mode A is generally reserved for initial observation. Mode B, Hide. When an observer attempts pursuit, SCP-8576 will be glimpsed by the pursuer immediately prior to leaving the observer's line of sight. In these cases, the entity's last visible action is a normal physical motion, walking, mounting a low wall, ducking into a doorway both locked or unlocked. Observers pursuing SCP-8576 repeatedly report impossible escapement despite no measurable alteration to environmental geometry or timeline, as well as the face of the subject never being completely seen properly. Always facing away from the observer during pursuit, and the facial area being hard to completely make out from most distances. While the entity has some patterns that vaguely resemble sapient thinking, it is yet to be confirmed. SCP-8576 can manifest at many locations at a given time, though notably exhibits a few patterns, one of which being that the entity has only ever been reported at Foundation sites, and to date none of the incidents involving the subject have happened outside of one. Another behavioral pattern to note is SCP-8576 will manifest in the same Foundation site for several incidents before conclusion, before moving on to another. 8576 is not a hallucination. Rather, it is an anomaly that, by anomalous coincidence, tends to only have one person notice it at a given time. To Typically, it is noticed only by those who have previously observed it or who are the immediate target of the anomaly. Simultaneous sightings by 2 or more individuals have been documented. However, SCP-8576 has never been observed from completely opposed, isolated vantage points. Attempts to make contact, verbal commands, light, or loud noise do not produce communicative response. High-resolution photographic and video records consistently exhibit localized blurring of SCP-8576's cephalic region. However, digital reconstruction of photographs has successfully reproduced a clear likeness. See image below. Physical interaction with SCP-8576 has not been reliably achieved. In a small number of cases where a pursuer closed the distance, there is a chemical release of dopamine in their brain, and the subject is always observed traversing a physical barrier, climbing a wall, slipping through a narrow gap, also causing the euphoric feeling to disappear. The traversal is always in a time interval that seems insufficient under normal human locomotion, only when not in line of sight. It can be reasonably assumed that this is the reason pursuit of SCP-8576 and consecutive following incidents has addictive or obsessive effects. Staff of medical history or past addictive behavior are to be flagged. Addendum 8576-A Incident Log. Date, redacted, 20, redacted. Location, site, redacted, Sector C. Personnel involved. Junior Researcher H. Kells, Security Officer M. Tane. Summary. During routine patrol, Junior Researcher H. Kells observed a juvenile female figure at the intersection of corridors C14 and C15. Kells initiated pursuit without notifying supervision. Security Officer M. Tane responded to motion irregularities detected on corridor sensors and discovered Kells approximately 400 meters from the original sighting on the ground beside a brick wall she presumably fallen from, with a severe head injury that rendered recovery impossible. Addendum 8576-B Incident Log. Location, site, redacted, Sector E. Personnel involved, Security Officer M. Tane. Summary. Several weeks following Incident 8576-A, Security Officer M. Tane continued to perform routine patrol without informing anyone of multiple consecutive SCP-8576 sightings he'd seen. However, on blank 20 blank, he entered a pursuit of SCP-8576, which ultimately resulted in his breach of Foundation rules by exiting the facility without authorization during an emergency lockdown due to a different incident involving SCP-redacted, resulting in his termination. Addendum 8576-R-1 Awareness Protocol Implementation. Origin Ethics Committee, Department of Analytics. Issued by Dr. E. Blank, Director, Research Division 8576. Summary. Following analysis of Incident 8576-B, Directive 8576-R was enacted to authorize open access awareness protocols for SCP-8576. The Ethics Committee has determined that personnel aware of 8576 are statistically less likely to engage in pursuit behavior upon first encounter. Likewise, subjects who have been directly targeted by the anomaly demonstrate an increased likelihood of a second encounter, as well as a higher probability of initiating pursuit during subsequent encounters, including without notifying staff. As such, containment priority has shifted from concealment to education. All Foundation personnel are now granted Clearance Level 1 access to SCP-8576 documentation. Dissemination of this file is authorized across all secure intranet terminals under the Awareness Protocol Initiative. Personnel are to be reminded that observation alone does not constitute a breach event, and pursuit of SCP-8576 without direct authorization remains prohibited.